Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto mastered the kitsune's power and build CRA, part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Team 7, after the battle on the bridge, decide to return back to Konoha, and Naruto also decides it's time for a change in his attitude. During this mission he learned that the life of a shinobi is a dangerous one, so he decided to let down his mask of stupidity. Also after their battle on the bridge, Naruto, after his large use of the Kyuubi's chakra during his battle against Haku, developed a mental connection with Kyuubi, allowing them to communicate with each other. Kyuubi, remember the first time we met after our battle with Haku? Naruto asked Kyuubi. Of course Kit. Although it wasn't the best introduction, haha. I can still see the priceless look on your face. Haha, why you look like you were about to piss your pants. Ahahaha. Hey, it's not that funny. Naruto fired back with a mental shout. Flashback. Naruto was resting in Tezuna's residence after their battle on the bridge with Haku and Zabuza. He was sleeping like a log and looked like nothing could wake him up. We might as well let him rest, Kakashi said in a lazy tone. Yeah, the Dobi really put up a fight yesterday against that fake hunter Nin, the Uchiha survivor commented. Yeah, but I'm sure you would have beat up that masked freak if you weren't knocked unconscious, isn't that right, Sasuke-kun? Added Sakura, the useless pink-haired teammate. Sasuke didn't answer, but scowled when Sakura mentioned the part where he got knocked out. And with that they left the room. Back with Naruto. Physically the sleeping blonde Jinchuriki looked fine in his sleeping state, but what was going on his mind was another story. In Naruto's mindscape, Naruto was walking through what looked like a sewer complex. Where am I? Naruto thought to himself as he wandered aimlessly around the sewer. Water splashing with each step he took until Naruto heard something that sounded like snoring, really loud snoring. Now that's weird, Naruto said to himself. He then started following the sound until he came to a large room, and in that room was a really big cage. Holy shit! Naruto yelled like a little girl, his eyes widening to the size of dinner plates. His girlish shriek grew louder when the cage spoke. Shut up, Gaki, I'm trying to sleep, the cage said. Then Naruto saw something shift inside the cage and it was big. Naruto then crept closer to the cage and peeked in between the bars and saw a hint of red fur. He immediately backed away a few paces from the cage. Hey, is someone air or something in there? Naruto asked the cage. The thing in the cage stirred, sharp claws went through the bars and rather close to Naruto's face. Naruto then fell on the ground holding his head and resumed his girly shriek of terror. The large thing, which turned out to be a fox, if you don't know who the fox is then you are the biggest idiot on the face of the universe, started rolling around the cage, clutching its sides while laughing. Ha 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 ha. Oh Kami, kid, you should see your face. Ha 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 ha. Naruto continued his scream while the fox began to calm down from its fit of laughter. Okay kid, you stop screaming like a little girl now. Naruto continued screaming like a little girl. Kid, please, you're embarrassing yourself. Naruto continued. The fox, knowing this would go on for a while, stopped trying to soothe the boy and began tapping its claw in annoyance against the floor while Naruto continued screaming. God, this kid has a large lung capacity. He's been going on screaming for 10 minutes now. The fox thought while still watching the young boy scream. Finally, Naruto began to run low on oxygen and started to stop screaming, which ended with Naruto gasping for breath. Yes. Arigato Kami-sama. Finally you've stopped. Ahem, now then Naruto Gaki, besides the fact you now hold the world record for the longest scream in history, you are probably wondering where you are and who I am, correct? The large fox asked Naruto. Naruto nodded dumbly. Okay then Kit, I am the great Kyuubi no Kitsune and we are in your mindscape. Oh, so we're in my mind and you're Kyuubi. So since it's my mind I can change the scenery of this place, right? Because this sewer thing just isn't cutting it, Naruto told Kyuubi. Well, it is your mind, so I guess you can. answered the fox. Naruto nodded and then sewer disappeared in a flash of light and in its place was a beautiful forest clearing complete with trees that towered over the area, a large waterfall that led to a pond and in the clearing was Naruto and Kyuubi. Kyuubi was out of his cage, but wore a collar with a dog, fox tag with kanji for seal on it. Much better if I do say so myself, Naruto said looking at his handiwork. I must say kid you've really outdone yourself changing the scenery. I can now stretch my legs because of this I will offer to train you when you're by yourself. Just meditate and you'll instantly come into this clearing you made, but right now I'm hungry Suyane, the fox added to his compliment with a hungry look on his face as it spied a rabbit in the far off corner of the forest and then sped off. You're welcome, Naruto called to the fox as it chased the rabbit into the forest depths. Well guess it's time to go, Naruto said to himself. Exit Naruto's mindscape. Naruto then woke up with a start. Naruto then shook his head side to side rapidly due to the massive head rush he get from getting up so quickly. Whoa big head rush, he whispered to himself. Sigh, at least now I know Mizuki was telling a bit of the truth. The fox was sealed in me in order to protect the village, but why me? Naruto then ended his mental reverie when Sakura walked into his room and gasped when she saw him awake. Sasuke-kun, Kakashi-sensei, Naruto's awake, she called to her teammate and sensei. Naruto scratched the inside of his ear when Sakura yelled. Dear Kami-sama I never knew the pink-haired banshee had such a loud voice I nearly went deaf just from that sentence she said or rather yelled, Naruto had mentally told himself. The Uchiha survivor and the copycat ninja were upstairs already and peeked into the room to see the blonde just staring outside the window of his room with a thoughtful expression on his face making him look older than he already was as his eyes looked like they held enormous wisdom and saw and experienced things no one else should see experience. Hey Naruto, Kakashi called out to Naruto. Good to see you're all better. Naruto turned his head at the sound of his name and grinned at his sensei's words. Thanks for the kind words sensei, it really means a lot to me to hear that you actually care, Naruto told Kakashi. Anytime Naruto, and by the way when we reach Konoha we're going to start some serious training. Kakashi replied to Naruto's compliment. Flashback end AN. Sorry if the flashback was too long. Ah those were good times, Naruto told Kyuubi. Yup good times. So what do you think that perverted sensei of yours will teach when you'll reach Konoha? Asked Kyuubi. You know I never really thought about it I'll ask him. Naruto then cut off his mental connection with Kyuubi and then ran to the front of the group to talk with Kakashi who was reading his Ika Ika Paradise novel giving a perverted giggle every 5 seconds. Hey sensei. Naruto called to the Cyclops. Wow hey Naruto what do you want? Asked the Cyclops. Well sensei I was just wondering what are you gonna teach us when we reach Konoha and when will it commence? Answering Kakashi's question with his. Sasuke and Sakura both listened intently to what Kakashi was about to say because Sasuke wanted to get stronger to beat Itachi and Sakura wanted to get stronger to impress Sasuke and both widened their eyes when Naruto had actually used a smart word in his question. Well guys the training will start tomorrow because we have arrived. Kakashi pointed out, his finger pointing directly ahead of them. All three genin turned their heads and saw the gates of Konoha in the distance. And what your training is, well that's a surprise, Kakashi said with a smile which was shown as his eye turned into an upside-down U. All the genin groaned when their cyclopean teacher told them that. Oh come on guys just rest up and you'll find out tomorrow which is actually not that far away, Kakashi said trying to cheer up his students. Oh and sensei I'm going to start changing my attitude because during this mission I have realized that the life of a shinobi is not one to joke about so I'm going to be more mellowed out, then Naruto lowered his voice so Sasuke and Sakura couldn't hear. I want you to come with me so I can get some new clothes because I'm afraid I'll get kicked out like when I was younger. Kakashi nodded in understanding because when Naruto was around the age of 5 Kakashi was his Anbu guardian at the time and had to beat up a villager who was about to beat up Naruto after kicking him out of the store. Of course Naruto, and besides I also think it's time you should let down that mask, and that orange jumpsuit is just shouting out, come and kill me. Kakashi said. Arigato sensei, and how did you know I was masking my true feelings? Naruto asked his sensei. Well, when you're an ex-anbu you tend to pick up a few things, Kakashi replied. Oh okay. Naruto acknowledged the answer. Meanwhile Sasuke and Sakura were wide-eyed when they heard that Naruto was actually masking his emotions, which meant that his happiness and goofy attitude was all fake and that their teacher was an ex-anbu. Then his crush on me could be fake. Wait, why am I sad about this? Can just give me more time to focus on Sasuke-kun, the pink-haired banshee thought. So the Dobi was an unpredictable puzzle, but now I can crack him knowing his feelings are all a mask, and this might be a good thing because he might have been masking his strength as well. I'm going to have to spar with him tomorrow to gauge his abilities, thought the Uchiha survivor with a smirk on his face. Okay then sensei, let's go home, yelled the blonde maelstrom, and then sped off to Konoha's gates. Kakashi and his teammates were trailing behind, trying to keep up with Naruto, yelling for him to wait. When they reached into Konoha, Naruto sped off to his apartment, saying bye to his teammates and sensei while thinking about tomorrow's training session. Kakashi had sunshined home while Sasuke and Sakura then walked calmly back to their homes, awaiting the special training with an eager attitude. As you all know from the last chapter in Naruto, the Fox Sannin, Naruto and his teammates are about to get a surprise training exercise, and of course Naruto is always excited when it comes to wanting to be able to get stronger. And now onto the scene of Konoha. We found our blonde hero enjoying a nice cup of instant ramen for breakfast and a glass of milk, which is surprisingly not past its expiration date. Naruto, after finishing his breakfast, then walked to training ground 7 in his new clothes Kakashi got him yesterday, which comprised of blue long pants that reached just above the ankles, a black t-shirt with the kanji for Fox on the front in orange. He wanted to keep his favorite color, but covered it with a genjutsu provided by Kyuubi, as he knew the villagers wouldn't like anything Fox related to be seen, and to top it off, a black hooded sweater with pockets on the front of the sweater near the stomach area, like the gangster jackets, and the Uzumaki spiral imprinted on the back of it. And of course his trusty weapons was attached to his left pant leg since he's left-handed. You know Kyuubi, I never thanked Kakashi-sensei for helping me get some new clothes, Naruto mentally said as he started a mental conversation with his furry friend. Well, you should, kid. I mean, he did get rid of that horrific jumpsuit you were always wearing. I mean, Kami, that color isn't suited for a ninja. Well, it just happens to be my favorite color, you know, and by the way, I want to take you up on that offer of being your disciple, Naruto said. Well then, I will train like no other sensei has trained you before, so be ready to feel like shit after each session. Now then, I'm gonna sleep in my den that you made, Kyuubi said with a bored tone. Naruto laughed inwardly and then set off towards the training grounds. Training Ground 7. Naruto had just arrived at the bridge at his team's training grounds to see Sasuke sitting on the bridge's handrails with a bored expression on his face while trying to act cool, and Sakura was staring at Sasuke with puppy dog eyes. Hey Sasuke-tem, Sakura-chan, Naruto called to his teammates. I see that Kakashi-sensei still isn't here yet. Hey Dobi, I see you weren't kidding about that change in your attitude and sense of fashion, Sasuke answered to Naruto's call. Yeah Naruto, you look kinda cool and good looking if I do say so myself, Sakura chimed in. Naruto chuckled. Thanks guys, Kakashi-sensei helped me pick them out yesterday, and thanks for the compliments, especially yours Sakura. To think you'd actually call me good looking for once, Naruto said. Poof. A poof of smoke then appeared out of nowhere. No shit, cheeky smiley face, yo, a familiar voice called out to the genin. The smoke cleared to reveal the Cyclopean Sharingan user Hatake Kakashi. You're late, yelled Sakura. Sakura then looked at Naruto with a confused expression. Naruto always used to join her in complaining about their sensei's tardiness, but now he just stood there and glared at Cyclops. Yes, well, I got lost on the road of life, lied the Jonin. Liar. Sakura chimed in, rather loudly I might add, and once again Naruto did not join her in the art of belittling their teacher. Yeah, now then it's time to begin that special training I promised you. Kakashi said, ignoring Sakura and going straight to the point. Kakashi saw his students instantly become serious when he mentioned training. He then reached into his weapons pouch and took out 3 pieces of paper. Sensei, what are those pieces of paper for and how will they help our training? Asked Sakura. Naruto and Sasuke were wondering the same thing. Kakashi chuckled at the question. Well, Sakura, these are no ordinary pieces of paper. These are, Kakashi took a dramatic pause, special chakra papers. You pump a small amount of chakra into the paper, and depending on what will to the paper when you pump chakra into it will determine your chakra's elemental nature. Kakashi said. The 3 genin then reached out and took 1 piece of paper each, but before they began, Naruto interrupted. Kakashi sensei, how do you know what your chakra nature is? Asked Naruto. Oh right, I forgot to mention that, thanks Naruto. Naruto beamed at being acknowledged. Right, so as you know, the 5 chakra elements are fire, wind, water, earth and lightning. Kakashi said as though it was the most obvious thing in the world, even though it is. The genin nodded. So when you focus chakra into the paper will change in different ways depending on your chakra natures. Some people even have multiple chakra natures, 3 at the most for normal people, but people usually have 1. Kakashi said. So if the paper cuts in half, your nature is wind, if it burns it's fire, if it gets soaked it's water, if it crumples up it's lightning, and if it turns to dust your nature is earth. The genin nodded at the information given to them. I have only lightning chakra and nothing else because some ninja have been said to gain a 2nd or 3rd chakra nature by the time they are jonin. Any more questions? Kakashi asked his 3 students. The genin shook their heads. Good, so get on with it. I want to see what happens, Kakashi whined like a 3-year-old. The genin laughed at his antics, except Sasuke, who smirked. The genin then began the process of finding their chakra natures, going one after the other. Sakura went first. She closed her eyes and focused her chakra into the special paper. Then the paper turned to dust in her palm. Kakashi chuckled at the sight. After all, Naruto did say Sakura's punches felt he was hit with a boulder. Well, Sakura, looks like you have an earth-type chakra nature, although I expected you to have a water nature, Kakashi said with a smile. Sakura grinned widely. Now it was Sasuke's turn. He closed his focus as he pumped a small amount of chakra into the paper. The paper then began to crumple up, but then after it crumpled it instantly caught on fire. Sasuke, afraid he would get burned, dropped the paper in a frantic fashion with a scared expression on his face. Sakura cheered for Sasuke because he had 2 chakra natures and started to compliment him, while Naruto scowled at Sasuke's luck at having 2 chakra natures. Naruto then began laughing at Sasuke as he looked at his to check if he had any burns on his hand. Well, Sasuke, I always knew you would have a fire nature because you're an Uchiha, and as you know, all Uchiha have it, but the lightning element was very unexpected, even I was surprised. Sasuke smirked at having 2 chakra natures, thinking he is now the strongest of the team, and then started to act all cool, but kept his eyes focused on Naruto as he was the only one left. Sakura and Kakashi also stared at Naruto, curious to what his chakra nature is. Naruto looked around to find everyone staring at him, and then realized it was his turn. Naruto then stared at the paper in his hand and then closed his eyes as he began to focus chakra into the paper. Then the most unexpected thing happened. The paper was cut in thirds, then 1/3 was burned, a second third was soaked, while the other third was turned to dust. Everyone's eyes widened as was shown before them. Well, Naruto, it seems you have 4 chakra natures: fire, earth, water, and the rarest element found in people, wind. Kakashi said with a surprised tone, but then smiled later as now he could teach Naruto in order to complete a certain technique. Can you guess what it is? Yada. I have more chakra elements than Sasuke Tem. Naruto yelled in a louder than normal voice and began jumping around. Sasuke began scowling and glaring at Naruto. How could the Dobi have so much chakra natures? I should be the one with all those powers. I'm an Uchiha, for God's sake. Sakura then ran up to Naruto and began congratulating him on his achievement. Okay, guys and girls, settle down, called Kakashi. Said guys and girl immediately silenced themselves and watched Kakashi, wanting to know what they will do now. Now that you guys know your chakra natures, and well, nature for Sakura. Sakura scowled at Kakashi's comment, but chose to spare her rant of doom. I will now teach you jutsus that will match your chakra natures and build your jutsu repertoire, and even though you all have mastered the tree walking exercise, I want you to continue it in order to build up your chakra reserves and control, especially you Naruto, because of your condition, Kakashi said. Naruto nodded, knowing he was talking about Kyuubi. And I'll be teaching you the water walking exercise and do some spars, however we'll do some of that stuff another time. Kakashi then tossed a few scrolls from his weapons pouch to each of the genin, which they caught. These scrolls contain jutsu, and Sasuke and Sakura, one of your scrolls contain a taijutsu style for each of you learn. Sasuke, yours is the Golden Dragon's Fist, and Sakura, yours is the Wrath of the Banshee. Naruto, I'm still trying to find a style to suit you, okay? This is for each of you to learn on your own time, but for now I want you all to do the tree walking exercise until the end of the training session, and if you run out of chakra, just take a 10-minute break. That should be enough time for you to recover your chakra to almost full or completely full, Kakashi said. The genin then rested their scrolls by a tree near the trees where they were to do the tree walking. They began to do their training and continued to do so, taking their 10-minute breaks in between. When the time came to stop, they began to get ready to go home covered in dirt and sweat, but not before picking up their special scrolls. Don't want to forget those, they all thought, and then left for their homes. Naruto, on the other hand, headed straight for his favorite restaurant, Ichiraku Ramen. Hey Gigi, Ichiraku, one extra large chicken ramen please, Naruto called to the ramen chef. Sure thing, Naruto, the chef answered, and then began to whip up Naruto's order. Naruto then began to talk to Kyuubi about their training while they waited on the order. Hey Kyuubi, did you hear? I have 4 chakra elements: earth, water, wind and fire. Naruto told Kyuubi in a mental shout. I know, I can hear and see what goes on through your eyes. Good job, Kit. I was surprised myself when you got earth and fire. The fire element is most likely from me, since we demon foxes have fire as our most common chakra element, but the wind really surprised because that element is the rarest element to appear in a person's chakra except in Sunagaku. Naruto smiled a foxy smile from the praise the fox gave him and then began eating, or should I say inhaling, his ramen when it came. So what are we going to be doing, Kyuubi-sensei? Saying the last part with a mocking tone. Kyuubi ignored the mocking tone and began to tell Naruto what they were going to be doing during their training. Well, Kit, tonight I'll be teaching you the kitsunekin and your mother's fighting style, the Uzuken. Naruto then left the stand after his 20th bowl and headed home with his new training scrolls in hand. Wait a minute, Kyuubi, you knew my mother? Naruto asked the nine-tailed Biju, hoping to gain some information on his family. Actually, Naruto, I never knew your mother personally, but I spent enough time in their small village of Whirlpool Country to learn their family fighting style. However, I know her name was Uzumaki Kushina. If you want to know more, you could ask your Hokage. Kyuubi-sensei, that really means a lot even if it's just her name, thanked Naruto. No problem, kid, and by the way, when did you start to call me Kyuubi-sensei? Kyuubi asked his host. I just thought I should call you that since you will be teaching me, Naruto answered. Then Naruto, after arriving at his apartment room, had a shower, dressed himself in his pajamas and then went to rest his tired body. Meanwhile, in Naruto's mindscape, he was training himself and his cage bunshin with Kyuubi, learning katas for both styles, since he learned that you can know what a clone knows whenever it's dispelled. This training went on for several hours with Naruto feeling like shit at the end. I told to be prepared for feeling like shit at the end of each session, but no, you told me that you could handle it, you would feel fine. Shut up, Kyuubi, I'm going to rest my mind now, Naruto told Kyuubi in an annoyed tone and then left his mindscape to go to Dreamland. Today Naruto was walking to his team's meeting place, but rather slowly because all night he had trained in his mindscape learning the kitsunekin and uzukin until he the katas for them like the back of his hand, and now he had mastered both styles thanks to his use of the Kujbunshin. Kami Kyuubi sure can be a slave driver. I mean, I'm grateful to him for training me, but dear Kami, I feel like shit, Naruto thought. Naruto looked at the sky, watching the clouds pass by. Naruto seemed to feel more relaxed as he looked at the puffy white forms of condensated water. Now I know why Shikamaru likes watching clouds so much, he said with a smile, and then arrived at the training grounds. Ohahio, Sasuke tem, Haruno ama, hor, Naruto growled, his eyes flashed red. Sakura glared at the blonde and was about to rant about why he shouldn't call her one when poof. Hooray 4 poofs. Hey there. Anyways, I was late today because I signed you all up for the Chunin exams, Kakashi said. Sakura was about to yell liar, until she had registered what Kakashi just told them. Shanaru, now I can show Sasuke-kun how strong I am, Sakura whispered to her inner self. Kakashi then handed them the registration cards. Now then, intense training starting now to prepare you for your exams. They start next week Friday, so get ready to go home feeling like shit, Kakashi said with a smile. Naruto looked up at the sky. Why, Kami-sama, 2 of them are slave drivers, why Kami, why? Naruto thought as he cried. Okay Naruto and Sasuke, you guys seem to have a knack for offense, so I'll teach you the most powerful jutsus I know in my arsenal. Naruto watched this as Fuden, Furyuendan no Jutsu, Kaden, Karyuheiki no Jutsu, Fire Style Fire Wall Jutsu, Sweden, Suiryuden no Jutsu, and Doden, Dusokonwareta no Jutsu, Earth Style, Earth Shatter Jutsu. I will now demonstrate them to you, Kakashi said. Fuden, Furyuendan no Jutsu, Kakashi yelled, and then a huge dragon of wind blew out of his mouth, slicing anything near to shreds before it gave a roar and came into contact with a tree, shredding it to toothpicks and disappearing in a swirl of wind with a final roar. Sugoi, Naruto said. Sasuke glared at Naruto. Those jutsus should be mine. I need more power if I want to defeat him, Sasuke thought. Kakashi then demonstrated the rest of the jutsus and Naruto ran off to practice them. Okay Sasuke, I don't know much lightning jutsus and I know you can learn some more fire jutsus at home, so I'll teach what I know, Kakashi said and then formed some hand signs. Kaden, Karyuendan no Jutsu, Kakashi yelled, and then the fire dragon rocketed forward and exploded into flames as it blew up a rock. Sasuke smiled, this would prove useful. Raiden, Reikurai no Jutsu, Kakashi yelled, and then a powerful thunderbolt blasted from his fingertips as Sasuke's smile grew wider and wider as Kakashi showed him jutsu after jutsu. He will finally have enough power to kill Itachi. Sakura, let's go, Sasuke, learn those jutsus I showed you, Kakashi commanded. The Uchiha nodded and then went off to train. With Naruto. Naruto was sitting in a clearing in the forest near the training ground. He had quickly mastered the wind dragon technique, which found to be surprisingly easy, then proceeded to begin practicing the fire wall. Naruto formed hand signs and then spun. Kaden, Karyuheiki no Jutsu, he shouted, and then a spinning wall of fire surrounded Naruto before it dissipated in a matter of 10 seconds. Finally I got it down, and only after my 10th try, Naruto said proudly. He then proceeded to learn the Dusokonwareta. He then formed the hand signs and slammed his palm on the ground. Doden, Dusokonwareta no Jutsu, Naruto yelled. Then he waited a while to see if anything happened. Naruto growled in anger as he observed that no damage had occurred and then went to leave, but then he felt a rumbling underneath his feet. He turned back and saw the entire earth in front of him crack open and formed a huge chasm. Naruto's mouth was agape and then looked down the chasm. It was at least 30 feet deep and 5 feet wide. Sugoi, he shouted and then did a little victory dance. Then Naruto stopped dancing and heard a rustling in the bush behind him. Naruto took out his kunai to get ready for battle. The bushes spread and revealed glowing red eyes, and then what stepped out was so hideous, so ugly, so terrifyingly disgusting that Naruto had to resist the urge to empty his stomach. It was a Uchiha Sasuke. Naruto gave a sigh of relief. Oh Sasuke, it's just you. I thought it was something else, Naruto said. Sasuke's four-tomoed Sharingan, two in each eye, began to spin. Naruto took a step back as he looked at Sasuke. Sasuke, you alright, and why is Sharingan spinning like that? Naruto asked nervously. Sasuke surveyed the damage. Did you do this? Sasuke asked the blonde Jinchuriki. Naruto looked at Sasuke oddly. Yeah, why? Naruto replied. Sasuke then looked up at Naruto with an evil smile. I want to fight you, Sasuke said. Naruto stepped back again. I'm sorry, what did you say? The great Uchiha thinks he can't beat Adobe and had to test his abilities against him. Naruto said in a mocking tone. Sasuke gritted his teeth. Of course not. Demo, you said you were masking everything, feelings, attitude, so you might have been masking your skills, so I want to see your true power, Sasuke said. Naruto smirked and then his eyes flashed red for a split second. Alright then Uchiha Demo, let's do this in front of Sakura and Kakashi-sensei. I want to show them your face when I end up kicking your ass, Naruto said confidently. You sound confident. Well fine, let's go, Sasuke said. Then the Uzumaki and Uchiha walked back to training field. A few minutes later they arrived at the training field and then their eyes widened when they saw the field was covered in craters. Then they heard a yell, followed by a chakra spike and then a loud boom. The two genin quickly ran to the source of those occurrences. There they stood and saw Sakura holding up a sword of earth. She then threw the sword of stone and it sliced through a couple of trees and a boom followed after as it crashed to the ground. She then turned around. Hey Sasuke-kun, what do you think of my Doden Jutsu? It's called Sakura thought, what's it called again? She asked Kakashi. Kakashi sighed at how idiotic this pink-haired bitch was. For the last time Sakura, the jutsu is called Doden, Ken no Do, Earth Style, Sword of Earth, Kakashi said. Sakura nodded and then turned back to Sasuke. Well, what did you think? She asked her crush. Sasuke looked at the destruction and then nodded in acceptance and then muttered his favorite word, that is, if it is a word. He muttered. Sakura squealed in excitement before she jumped around shouting how Sasuke loved her and all that shit. The three boys shook their heads in disappointment, then Naruto's head shot up. Oh right, Kakashi-sensei, can you watch the fight between me and Sasuke? I want to show you how I kick his ass, Naruto said. Kakashi nodded and then sat against a tree. Yeah right, Naruto Baka, you could never defeat Sasuke, he's an Uchiha, he's the strongest ever, Sakura yelled. Naruto growled at the pink-haired banshee. Sakura, look, do everyone here a favor and shut your motherfucking mouth, honestly you are so annoying sometime, no not sometimes, all the time, now go away so I can beat this Naruto shouted in anger. Kakashi and the others were surprised at Naruto's outburst, they had never seen him become so angry, so much hate was shown in those cerulean blue orbs of his when he looked at Sakura, that hate only increased when he looked at Sasuke. Let's fight now Naruto growled. Sasuke glared and then got into the Uchiha fighting stance. Naruto got into the stance of the Uzuken, which consisted of his left arm starched out in front of him, his hand outstretched and his right arm placed at his waist, his legs shoulder-width apart. Come, little Uchiha, Naruto taunted. Sasuke then rushed Naruto and jumped to deliver an axe kick, but Naruto held up his arms and blocked it and then grabbed Sasuke's leg and then swung him into the ground. Sasuke got up and then fired a punch aimed for Naruto's gut, but Naruto backflipped to avoid it. Sasuke then formed hand signs. Kaden. Gukaku no Jutsu, Sasuke yelled and then a huge fire ball sped towards the blonde, but Naruto jumped near the river and formed hand signs. Uzumaki secret jutsu. Uzu no Tate, Naruto shouted. Then water rose up out of the river and swirled into a whirlpool before going in front of Naruto and protecting him from Sasuke's fireball. Sasuke couldn't believe his eyes. The Dobi, he was losing to the Dobi. Surprised Sasuke. Well, that's not all, Naruto said and formed hand signs. Sweden. Suiryuden no Jutsu, Naruto said. The whirlpool then morphed into a dragon's head and then the dragon sped towards Sasuke. Naruto grinned like a maniac before he laughed. The water dragon gave a roar. Sasuke formed some hand signs and then held his hand out in front of him. Raiden. Raryuheiki no Jutsu, wall of lightning, Sasuke yelled, and then electricity poured out his body and expanded, forming a wall in front of him. The dragon crashed into the lightning wall and then disappeared in a splash. Naruto then ran forward. Sasuke also ran forward and they engaged in a heavy taijutsu battle. Kakashi was on the sidelines, admiring the amount of skill Naruto and Sasuke had with their new jutsus, while Sakura was cheering on Sasuke. Naruto then aimed a kick at Sasuke's stomach, but Sasuke caught the kick and then twisted Naruto's ankle, intending to break it, but Naruto spun with the twist and freed his leg. Naruto then got back up and threw a few punches which Sasuke blocked. However, Naruto had then sent a fast kick to Sasuke's stomach, knocking the wind out of him, and then followed up by punching Sasuke in the chin, then ducked and formed a cage bunshin which kicked Sasuke in the chin, sending him upwards. Naruto followed up and added a kick of his own before grabbing Sasuke's ankles, formed a few flips and slammed Sasuke in the dirt. Naruto then rolled back onto his feet and threw a few shuriken. Sasuke slowly got up and then formed some hand signs and then spun. Kaden. Karyuheiki no Jutsu, he said, and then a whirl of fire melted the projectiles. Naruto sneered at Sasuke, who grinned in satisfaction. Naruto then decided he needed to end this now and then channeled chakra and formed some hand signs. Secret Uzumaki Jutsu. Sum no Sway, Naruto said, and then water surrounded his hands and formed claws. Naruto showed his foxy grin to Sasuke. I win, Naruto said and then disappeared in a blur of speed. Everyone's eyes widened at the pace Naruto moved at, only Kakashi could track him. Naruto then appeared in front of the Uchiha with his claws of water held in front of the Uchiha's face. You are dead and I am the victor. I claim victory of this battle between myself and the Uchiha Tem, Naruto yelled and then looked at the time. It was time to go home. Sakura then looked at Sasuke and saw the bruises and cuts he had gotten from Naruto. She glared at the blonde who was celebrating his victory. I'll never forgive you for this, Naruto baka, Sakura said. Naruto turned and put on a mock sad face. Oh, how will I ever live with myself? He said sarcastically before he turned back to leave. Kakashi then got up to go and check on Sasuke before going to have a talk with our blonde Jinchuriki. Konoha streets. Naruto was walking down the street feeling rather good about himself as he ignored the villagers' glares which he received at a daily basis. He had learned some jutsu, mastered them, and then to wrap it all up, he had beaten the Sasukes in front of Sakura and Kakashi sensei. Yup, this was a good day, and also he got to go to the Chunin exams. Then he turned when he heard some footsteps behind him. Oh hey Kakashi sensei. Sorry about beating up Sasuke so badly, it's just that I needed to put him in his place and to make a point, Naruto said. Kakashi waved his hand. No, it's alright. In fact, what you say is totally true, but next time, don't be so rough, Kakashi said. What was that point you were trying to make anyway? That even Adobe can become strong, Naruto stated. Kakashi smiled and ruffled Naruto's hair. I'm proud of you, Naruto. I'm glad to call you my student. In fact, I think you're the only one who has enough potential to become Chunin, but in order to get through the first and second rounds, you need that aspect of teamwork with Sasuke and Sakura, so just try to get along with them for the time being, just until the third part of the exams. Okay Naruto, Kakashi said. Hi, I'll try sensei, Naruto said, and then Kakashi left in a poof of smoke. Well, Kyuubi sensei, time to train, he thought to the fox. I've already made the schedule kit, Kyuubi replied with a vulpine grin. Naruto's apartment in his mindscape. Naruto was in his mindscape when he arrived home and was training with Kyuubi. So sensei, what did you say you were going to teach me? Naruto questioned. I will be teaching you the ability to transform into an animal, namely a fox, Kyuubi said with a wide grin. How will turning into a fox help me? He questioned slowly as the words processed in his mind. Ooh, nice, I love it, teach me, Naruto said in excitement. Kyuubi chuckled. Okay, so in order to turn into a fox, you must visualize the look of a fox, its scent, every single physical aspect of it if you want to become one of us, Kyuubi explained. Now just close your eyes and in order to turn into a fox you must say the magic words, I'm a big stupid fathied. Kyuubi said with a snicker. Naruto closed his eyes and took a deep breath. I'm a big stupid fathied, Naruto said, and then opened his eyes and looked at himself and saw the Kyuubi laughing and rolling on the floor. Kyuubi, I thought you said saying those words would help me, Naruto said angrily. Naruto, say those words slowly and you'll hear what they say and then you'll understand why I'm laughing, Kyuubi said and then returned to busting his gut and feeling his spleen die so many times from the amount of laughter. Naruto thought as he processed the words slowly through his brain. I'm a big stupid fathied, I'm a big stupid fat head, Naruto said to himself before his eyes widened in realization. Naruto glared at the fox. Now I know why people hate you baka kitsunes, Naruto growled. Ah, come on kid, don't be like that. Okay, to really turn into a fox you must do the first part of everything I said, and then you will morph into one of kin, Kyuubi said. Naruto nodded and then closed his eyes and focused on being a fox. Then the most extraordinary thing happened. Naruto's whiskers became darker and then grew off his face and became actual whiskers, his ears elongated and became pointed like Kyuubi's, golden blonde fur covered his body, his toes and fingers came together and changed into paws and then finally, a single golden tail sprouted out of his skin, but the most painful part finally came. Naruto fell to the ground howling in pain, that's right, howling, as his bones and muscles rearranged themselves to form the bones and muscles of a kitsune's. Naruto then fell from 2 legs to all 4s and then Naruto opened his eyes, they were still cerulean blue, but the pupil was slitted and then Naruto let out a howl. Naruto then looked at himself. Ha 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 ha, I did it, it hurt like hell, but I did it, I'm a kitsune, then Naruto froze. How do I change back, Kyuubi-sensei? Okay kid, now that you've mastered the kitsune transformation, you must now do the Hanyu transformation, for when you accomplish this exercise you are no longer human or demon, but half demon, a Hanyu. Kyuubi said. Naruto was silent before he started freaking out. Ever watch Johnny Test? Well, you know when Dookie freaks out, yeah, Naruto's doing that. What do you mean I'm not human? People will surely notice the tails and ears poking out, Naruto screamed. Kyuubi waved his paw. Relax. Just focus on changing into your human form and the transformation will do the rest. Naruto forced himself to calm down and then focused and his bones popped and cracked as he transformed again. This time he looked like his human self except he now the hair by where his ears were had grown to cover it up and the 2 fluffy ears stuck up out of his blonde locks and the tail still swished behind him. Okay, now what? Naruto asked. How do I get rid of the fluffy thingies here and here? He asked, gesturing to his head and rear. You can't, but I can cast a genjutsu around you that will hide them, Kyuubi said. Oh well, guess I'll just have to get used to the tail and ears not being on the side of head, Naruto said. Guess I'd better get going then, later sensei, he said and was about to leave. Oh no you don't, you will stay here until midnight. It's only 2:30 right now and you will stay here and train in your transformations because at the speed you do it at anybody would have killed you by then, Kyuubi commanded. Naruto nodded. Yes, Kyuubi-sensei, Naruto said, and then for the rest of the day within the confines of Naruto's mindscape, his screams continued until midnight. Time skip next Friday. Over the week, Naruto had tried and eventually succeeded in trying to make things work out between Sasuke, Sakura and him. He told them that they would work together for the first 2 parts of the exam and then during the final part they wouldn't help each other and then the killing blow. Once they became Chunin, they didn't have to associate with him anymore, unless on missions. That got them to agree to help each other for the exams. Team 7 then walked to the academy building where the first exam of the Chunin exams was supposed to take place. Then as Naruto and the others were walking, Naruto rounded a corner and accidentally ran into a boy, about 1 year older than himself, and a girl was about 15 was standing behind him. Naruto dusted himself off and looked at the two. The boy was wearing a cat-like black bodysuit, wore some sort of kabuki paint, and to top it off some sort of large thing on his back wrapped in bandages. As for the girl, she was blonde, her hair tied in 4 individual ponytails, wore a purple top and skirt, and you could see she was wearing a fishnet suit underneath, and saw their Hitai Atesh, both from the hidden sand village. Gomen Nasai, I wasn't watching where I was going, Naruto apologized. The boy, however, didn't take the apology and sneered at Naruto. I don't care, I hate when people bump into me, he said, and then looked at the girl. Tamari, don't interfere, he added. The girl, defined as Tamari, shook her head. Kankuro, can you anywhere without picking a fight? She asked with an annoyed tone. Kankuro smiled and shrugged and then cocked his fist back to hit Naruto. Naruto blocked the punch and then struck a pressure point on Kankuro's arm, disabling it. Kankuro was furious and then tried to reach the bundle on his back, but then a chilling voice was heard. Kankuro, stop this nonsense immediately, the scary voice said. All heads turned to see a red-headed boy standing upside down on a tree. He wore a brown and black outfit and had a most heavy gourd on his back and had a tattoo with the kanji for love above his right eye. Gaara, Gomen, this Gaki here started it, Kankuro started, but was halted mid-sentence. Shut up, or I'll kill you, Gaara said, each word dripping with killing intent. Gaara then disappeared in a whirl of wind. When the wind was whirling, Gaara spied Naruto. He managed to paralyze Kankuro's arm and render him useless. He has skill, Gaara thought, and then reappeared between Kankuro and Temari. I'm sorry for the intrusion, I am Subaku no Gaara. You, the blonde, what is yours? Uzumaki Naruto, Naruto replied. Sasuke then stepped forward. I'm Uchiha Sasuke, Sasuke said as though his name meant the entire world. Gaara then turned away from Team 7, ignoring Sasuke. I will see you at the Chunin exams, Uzumaki Naruto, I will enjoy our fight, Gaara said. Naruto nodded and then watched the Suna team walk off. Team 7 then went to go to the Ninja Academy, the place where all their training began, where the first exam was to take place. Team 7 entered the complex, and then ascended to the 3rd floor. When they arrived at the 2nd floor, they saw a large amount of people standing there demanding to be led into a room that had been said to be where the Chunin exams were. Team 7 looked at each other with confused looks, but they had only gone up 2 floors. Then realization hit Naruto. Listen guys, he whispered, this is a decoy, this is really the 2nd floor, so I say we leave this room and go up ahead so as to lower our competition. Sasuke and Sakura were surprised at the blonde's sensory abilities and then nodded dumbly. 3rd floor. Naruto, Sasuke and Sakura walked up to the 3rd floor, and then when they reached the door, Kakashi was waiting for them. Ah, good you all showed up, Kakashi said. What might have happened if we didn't, sensei? Sakura asked. You all would never be able to go in if it was only 2 of you, for in order to go to the Chunin exams, there must be 3-man teams, so go in and kick some ass, Kakashi said, giving a thumbs up. The genin nodded and then went to walk, but then Naruto was held back by Kakashi. Naruto, give them a good introduction, would you? Kakashi asked. Naruto grinned and nodded. The team then entered the room and their eyes widened. The entire room was filled with a mass of glaring genin, all the glares fired towards at them. Sasuke-kun, a shrilly voice cried. Sasuke was then glomped by Yamanaka Ino. I've been waiting for you in excitement, she said in a seductive voice. Sakura instantly got mad. Ino pig, get your hooves off of Sasuke-kun. The pink-haired banshee yelled to the blonde-haired banshee. The 2 banshees then yelled at each other, until 2 more people joined the party. Hey guys, can you turn it down? It's very troublesome, Shikamaru said as Choji walked beside him eating his chips. Hey Shikamaru, Choji, Naruto greeted giving them high fives. Shikamaru and Choji smiled as they chatted with their friend. Naruto, nice clothes, looks like you finally decided to be smart now, Shikamaru said with a chuckle. Naruto was wearing a black jacket with the Uzumaki symbol on it and remained open to show the world his dark blue t-shirt underneath, which had a picture of the yin and yang symbol with dragon on yin and a fox on yang, along with some long forest green cargo pants and blue ninja sandals. So guys, how's training with Asuma? Kakashi-sensei and my team have been training like crazy. When Kakashi signed us up, Naruto said, Shikamaru chuckled. Yeah, we've training like crazy also, but Ino's been too much of a bitch, so it was really troublesome, Shikamaru said. Naruto and Choji laughed at the insult towards Ino. Ino, however, heard that, started to shout at the lazy boy genius. Naruto found it was too silent and then pointed his finger at all the genin present. Oi, Mina, I am Uzumaki Naruto and I will defeat you. Naruto yelled. The whole room glared and directed killer intent at Naruto. Naruto ignored them all and then fired back with a large amount of his own by firing up the Kyuubi's chakra. People then reduced theirs and backed and knew one thing: don't mess with Uzumaki Naruto. Hey Sasuke, we are so going to kick your ass, Kiba said as he and his team walked in. Kiba then walked forward and gave Naruto a high five. Kiba, buddy, how's it going? Naruto asked. Really good, but from what I can see you've gotten stronger and developed fashion sense, but Sasuke looks like a stupid asshole and Sakura, no comment on her, Kiba said. Sasuke gritted his teeth at the insult and attempted to punch Kiba, but Naruto blocked it. Sasuke, save the violence for the exam, not now, Naruto said. Then there was a long moment of silence, so Kabuto had no reason to go over and get information on the rookies. Then a large poof of smoke appeared and then a tall man wearing a bandana with a Konoha symbol on it and a long black trench coat with about 10 chunin stood behind him. Okay you gakis, time to shut your yaps and sit down. I am Morino Ibiki and I am proctor of first written exam, Ibiki ordered. Naruto cracked his fingers. Oh, this was going to be fun. Alright you gakis, take a seat so we can proceed with this written exam, Ibiki said. Naruto went and grabbed a seat between Shikamaru and Choji. Good luck guys, Naruto said to his two friends. Shikamaru and Choji nodded and then looked at Ibiki as he explained the rules of the exam. Okay guys, the rules are that when the test is over, if you get one of the 10 questions wrong you lose 1 point, so you get 9 out of 10 and so on. Also, if you are caught cheating 3 times in a row you and your team are completely disqualified from the exam. Also, the 10th question at the end will be revealed 45 minutes before the exam is finished. Okay, and as soon as you receive your test papers you can begin, Ibiki said. The mass of chunin then quickly handed out test papers and then took seats around the classroom, their clipboards at the ready, in order to write down the team that was caught cheating. Naruto then looked at the questions and immediately paled. Okay, first question. There is a line representing the distance a person can throw a shuriken. The radius of the semicircle shown as the line of enemy ninja. Show the calculations of how the ninja can hit all of his enemies using that one shuriken, Naruto thought reading the question. This question seemed near impossible. Naruto clutched his head as he watched Sakura just blaze past those questions, but only a normal person would have to cheat. Naruto showed his foxy grin. He then tapped his pencil on the desk. To most people it would only be a person tapping their pencil, but to experienced ninja, it was actually Morse code. Hey Shikamaru, we have to cheat, he tapped. Shikamaru nodded and tapped his pencil. Yeah, I realized, but we have no one to cheat off of, Shikamaru tapped back. Naruto thought and then smiled. Don't worry, I have a plan. I can get the answers using a little technique I've been working on, Naruto said. Shikamaru sighed. Troublesome, but alright, say does Choji know Morse code too? He asked. Naruto thought for a while. I think so, let me check. Naruto tapped. Naruto then kicked Choji's leg. Choji turned to Naruto and found him tapping his pencil. Choji looked at the pencil for a few seconds before his eyes widened and he grinned. Choji then picked up his pencil and began to return the Morse message. Naruto's eyes brightened. Oh yeah, he does Shikamaru. Naruto tapped to the lazy genius. Shikamaru smiled. Naruto then tapped out the plan to Choji. Choji nodded and then Naruto set to work. Naruto used his genjutsu hidden fox ears to listen to the sound vibrations of Sasuke's pencil since he had obviously hit the jackpot with the person he was copying from with his Sharingan. Naruto then quickly wrote down the answers and when he had finished, he quickly tapped them out to Choji and Shikamaru. While Naruto was tapping the answers to Choji and Shikamaru, people from Konoha and the other villages were being caught cheating and the numbers dropped like flies, dwindling from over 100 to at least 55 teams left. After that, the three friends took a nap on the desk. Kankuro went to go to the bathroom with an escort Chunin. While in the bathroom, Kankuro laughed. Those Konoha nins didn't even notice there was an extra Chunin in the ranks. Okay, Karasu, tell me the answers starting with number 1, Kankuro said, and then the Chunin's face started to crack off, revealing a wooden surface underneath. Time skip 45 minutes left. Okay, Gaki's pencils down. Time for the 10th question. Now then, before I ask the 10th question, does anyone want to drop out? If so, do it now, Ibiki said. Then immediately at least 11 teams dropped out, leaving 44 teams. Okay, as for those of you that stayed here. Ibiki took a dramatic pause. You pass, he said with a smile. Everyone in the room gasped. What do you mean we passed? What was the 10th question? Tamari asked, not understanding the events that had just occurred. You see, the 10th question was whether or not you would have the guts to stay. The point of this test was to be able to gather information, thus you were required to cheat. Ibiki explained, sometimes information of the enemy is vital to a village, and, Ibiki then removed his bandana and the whole class was shocked. There on his scalp were numerous burns, slashes and holes from where screws were punctured into his head. It can even cost you your life, he finished. Cool. I bet his hands are worse, Dosu, an Odo Nin, thought. Then a black something blasted through the nearby window and then the black thing unfolded to reveal it was a tarp that read, Proctor of Second Exam, the awesome and knockout sexy Mitarashi Anko. And there in front of the tarp was a purple-haired woman, wearing Anbu leg armor, a orange skirt over a fishnet outfit and to top it off a large full-body trench coat, who would obviously be Anko. Anko surveyed the classroom and smiled. Everyone was freaked out by her entrance, except for a young Uzumaki Naruto who was checking her out. Anko grinned at Naruto, who just nodded in acknowledgement. Ibiki, you've gone soft. There are 44 teams left in here, Anko said. Not my fault if they want to die, Ibiki said. Well, I'll be sure to reduce their numbers by more than half, she said with an evil grin. Everybody shuddered in fear at what she had just said. Okay, boys and girls, follow me to where you're going to have your second exam, Anko said. The entire class got up and reluctantly followed. The class then walked through the village, and then entered an area with a sign that said restricted section. Naruto grinned in anticipation. Oh, he was going to have some fun today. Then Anko stopped in front of a large fence. Behind the fence was a large amount of dense foliage, where the sounds roars, hisses, branches snapping and other sounds could be heard. Welcome ladies and gentlemen to training grounds, number 44, also known as the Forest of Death, she said. Naruto smirked. Sounds fun, he said. Everyone looked at him, like he was crazy nut job, which he might have been. It does, doesn't it? At least for now. Just wait until you meet all the bloodthirsty predators in there. That's when the real fun starts, Anko said. Like I said, sounds fun, Naruto said. People began to back away from the blonde boy and purple-haired woman. I like you, Gaki, but anyways, back to the exam. Okay, the rules are simple. Since there are 44 of you, 22 of you will each get Earth Scrolls, the half Heaven Scrolls. The object of this is to go and try and get both scrolls by taking out other teams. Then when you have gotten both scrolls, you will head to the tower in the center of the forest where the other half of the exams are to take place, Enko explained. The genin all nodded. Now then you will first sign this consent form before you get a scroll, Enko said. Why? Sakura asked. Because I don't want to be responsible for when the parents start crying when their gakis die, Enko said with a grin. The genin then took a consent form and then one by one each team got either a hine or an earth scroll. So we don't know who gets which scroll, Sasuke said. Yeah, but that just means we have more people to fight, Naruto said. Sakura hid behind Sasuke who was smiling at the thought of fighting people. Okay people, your teams will be assigned to a gate and then on my mark the gates will open and the exam will begin, Enko said. Team 7 Gate 1, Team 8 Gate 2, Team 10 Gate 3, Odo Team Gate 4, Kabuto's Team Gate 5. Okay, on your marks, get set, Enko began, the genin's legs tensed ready to bolt inside the moment the gates opened, Ikuzo. Enko yelled and the gates sprung open and the team sped inside the forest not prepared for the horrors that wait within. Naruto and the team were jumping through the trees, looking out for any enemy nins that had Earth Scroll at having received the Scroll of Heaven, but then Naruto paused. Thanks Naruto's new advanced senses from being a fox, he smelled a new scent in the air, and it was a smelly smell, the smelly smell that could be so smelly. Naruto turned to his teammates. Oh come on Sasuke-tem, don't fart now, oh dear Kami, I need air, I need the luscious oxygen, Naruto yelled as he gasped for air. Sasuke turned red. It wasn't me, Sasuke cried. It was Sakura, he said pointing at her. Sakura gasped. Oh my Kami-sama, Sasuke-kun, I'm a lady and ladies don't fart, Sakura said with a blush in her face. Yeah Sasuke, you have to use the proper term, Sakura has, broken wind, Naruto said and then he and Sasuke fell on their branches in laughter. Sakura was even more embarrassed. Not because she was accused of breaking wind, but because she actually did. After Naruto and Sasuke calmed down from laughing, they had heard a rustling in the bushes below. Naruto and the others watched from their treetop perches, hanged as birds and watched. But guys, I swear, I heard somebody laughing in this direction, an aim genin said running out of the bushes. His teammates followed behind him and sighed. Naruto's eyes widened. They were wearing some kind of snorkeling gear and full-body elastic suits. One had both his eyes revealed, another had only one eye and the last one had both his eyes covered. Oh come on, look there's nobody here except for those three weird-looking birds that have been watching us for a while, now come on we have to find a heaven scroll. The birds' eyes widened at the word heaven meaning that they had an earth scroll. Now when the aim genin had their backs turned to leave, Naruto and the others released their henges and dropped down on them like vultures. That earth scroll will be mine, Naruto growled as his eyes turned slitted. The genins immediately got into fighting stances. Naruto then rushed the one on the left that had his eyes covered, which was probably the most idiotic this to do when facing Naruto. Naruto quickly kicked the boy in the stomach. The boy groaned in pain as Naruto then elbowed him in the face followed by a knockout blow by an uppercut to the chin. Sasuke and Sakura had taken down the one with one eye and were now looking at the one with both his eyes. Do you have the scroll? Sasuke asked in a sickeningly sweet voice, his Sharingan staring deep into the boy's eyes. No, the one with one eye does, he said pointing to his down teammate. Naruto went and held the scroll high and grinned. Huzzah! To the tower my minions, away, Naruto said and then walked forward, but then turned around and scratched his head. Which way is the tower? He asked sheepishly. Sasuke and Sakura sweat dropped. Okay Naruto Baka, first of all we are not your minions, second the tower is. Well let's see judging by the wind speeds, differentiating the coefficients and due to Sasuke blocking those winds the tower can be said to be in the direction that is north. You're going east, Sakura said. Wow Haruno, how'd you figure that out? Naruto asked. Sakura pointed in front of Naruto. There's a sign right there in front of us, she said. Sasuke and Naruto turned to find a giant neon sign saying the tower is north and a big giant arrow was blinking in the direction of the tower. Naruto's sweat dropped. How did we miss that? Naruto asked Sasuke. Sasuke muttered. Naruto and the others then walked north towards the tower, with Sasuke holding the scrolls. Then Naruto felt a disturbance in the force and then a huge gust of wind came and blew Naruto away. Sakura and Sasuke had managed to stick to the ground with chakra. Naruto, they cried as they saw him blow away. Then a long-haired genin from Kusagaker, identified from the Hittite stepped out. Kukukukuku, well hello Sasuke-kun, she said with an evil chuckle. Outside the FOD. Enko looked at the dead bodies of the three Kusa genins. Their faces were completely melted off with no trace of who did it, but Enko knew. Kuso, Orochimaru Tem, Enko growled, okay people get the Anbu, I'm going in. Enko then turned to leave. Then another Chunin jumped in front of Enko. Enko-san, you know that big neon sign that shows the way to the tower? He asked. Enko nodded. Yeah, we forgot to tear it down and apparently the Uzumaki boys team found it, he said. Enko's sweat dropped. Bakas, anyways I'm busy so you do it, Enko said and then jumped into the dense foliage. With Naruto. Naruto was knocked out on the ground after being blown head first into a tree. Naruto was lying still on the ground, alive, but not awake. Then a little pair of slitted green eyes watched the blonde from a distance in the bushes. The owner of those eyes hopped out of the bushes to reveal that it was a small little fox kit, with black fur and a white tipped tail. The kit then sniffed Naruto and then began to lick his face. Naruto stirred before he awoke to find a pink tongue in his eye. Naruto shot up, scaring the kit. Naruto turned and looked at the little kitsune. Hey, he said. The fox yipped back to Naruto before jumping into his lap and licked his face, again. Naruto chuckled and then stopped the kit. Okay, as much as I like the affection, I need to go find my teammates, so bye, Naruto said and then turned to leave, but then found the black fox kid walking by his side, which turned out to be at his calf in height. The fox looked at Naruto and showed what was supposed to be a smile, revealing sharp teeth. Okay, so you want to come with me? Naruto asked. The kid yipped in response. I'll take that as a yes, Naruto said and then he picked up the kid and tucked it under his arm and then jumped to the trees. With Sasuke. Sasuke and Sakura were hiding behind a tree from that queer snake freak, but wherever they were he would just appear. Then Sakura's eyes widened and was about to shout as she saw a humongous snake, but Sasuke covered it. Shish, Sakura, he might find us if you talked, he warned, but Sakura bit Sasuke's hand. Itai, what was that for? He asked nursing his bitten hand. Sakura then grabbed Sasuke's head and forcefully turned it and then his eyes widened when he saw the snake. Sasuke then quickly turned on his Sharingan and then flung numerous amounts of shuriken at the reptile, effectively killing it as the animal fell on the large tree branch with a bam. Sasuke was breathing heavily at having so much adrenaline course through his body, but then he heard a crunching sound. He looked and saw the monstrous reptile's head burst open and there stood the evil Kusanin. Well done defeating so many of my reptilian friends Sasuke, but it's not enough, the Kusanien said with a laugh. Who are you? Sasuke asked as he stared at the pedophilic monstrosity. Well I guess since you're going to die soon, I will give you my name, I am Orochimaru, he said and then peeled off his face, that's right peeled it off, to reveal the glowing yellow slitted eyes of a snake in pale white skin. But Rick now I don't feel like killing you so I'll just give you a little parting gift, Orochimaru said and then his neck elongated, and fangs grew poised to strike, but then a flurry of shuriken stopped the snake in his tracks. Everyone looked in the direction where the shuriken came from and there stood a blonde-haired boy with a black fox kid at his heels. Sorry I'm late, I needed to find your scent, but not to worry, Uzumaki Naruto is here, Naruto said with a grin, the black-furred fox yipped by its friend. My, well hello Naruto-kun, seems you and your little friend there want to kill me, Orochimaru said as he felt the killer intent being emitted from Naruto. Naruto then jumped at the snake, but then Orochimaru summoned an old friend, the reptile Sasuke had killed a few moments ago. The snake then batted away Naruto with its tail as if it was slapping away a fly. Naruto then crashed into a tree with a sickening crunch of the bark. Orochimaru cackled before heading towards Sasuke, but as he was doing so a black and yellow blur appeared and stabbed the snake. There stood Naruto, two kunai jabbed into the snake's nose. Naruto then looked up, red slitted eyes looked at Sasuke. "You alright pant you emo freak," Naruto said. Sasuke was staring at Naruto like he had grown a second head. How did the Dobi get so strong, and what's with his eyes being red? Sasuke thought. Naruto turned and glared at Orochimaru. Naruto then sped forward with speed that the hubby Sannin couldn't even track and was elbowed in the gut. The hubby Sannin gasped as the wind was knocked out of him. Naruto then followed up with a punch to the gut again followed by an uppercut to the chin, then a punch to the solar plexus and a kick to the chin. Orochimaru was sent flying and then the fox kit that Naruto found appeared and then bit Orochimaru's nose. Orochimaru screamed in pain as the kit sunk its teeth into the cartilage. Orochimaru then grabbed the kit and threw it. Naruto quickly shunshined and caught the kit and then rested it on the ground. "Stay here, I don't want you getting hurt," Naruto said, his red eyes staring into the kit's green ones. The kid nodded and then Naruto shunshined into the fray once again. Orochimaru quickly recovered from his bleeding nose and then caught using quick ref. X's caught a punch to the face courtesy of Naruto. Naruto growled and then tried to slash the hubby Sannin in his eye, but Orochimaru extended his tongue to extraordinary lengths and stopped the clawed hand and then using the tongue, slammed Naruto into the tree trunk and then to add the finishing blow he threw Naruto off the tree so he could fall onto the spiky tree branches below that were sure to impale him. "Naruto, no!" Sakura cried and then took out a kunai and pinned him to a tree by his jacket. Sasuke then stared as he saw Naruto being saved by Sakura. "Looks like it's my turn to fight," Sasuke said and then he looked at Orochimaru focusing all of his killing intent on him. Orochimaru turned and smiled. Sasuke was glaring at him, the red irises of the Sharingan blazing and his tomo spinning. "Oh ho! So the young Uchiha is angry that I defeated his little teammate. Well, let's see how fare against me," Orochimaru said. Sasuke then rushed Orochimaru, leaving an after image behind at the speed he was moving at, a punch at the ready. Orochimaru rushed Sasuke and their blows met. Sasuke then jumped up and delivered an axe kick, but Orochimaru dodged and aimed to bite Sasuke's neck with his fangs. Sasuke rolled to the side and then found an opening. He punched Orochimaru in the gut and then followed up with a kick to chin and then a rapid uppercut, sending the hubby Sannin upwards. Sasuke then jumped up and kicked Orochimaru off the tree branch. Orochimaru then began to fall head first towards the ground. Sasuke then jumped off a tree trunk and caught up with the falling Orochimaru. He then wrapped his legs around the hubby Sannin's throat and his arms around his legs. The two then fell at an impressive speed before Orochimaru's head came into contact with a very large tree branch with a crash. Dust and tree bark were scattered everywhere from the impact. The dust cleared as Sakura, with an unconscious Naruto and the black fox kit, jumped down. "Yeah, way to go Sasuke-kun," she shouted, but then her eyes widened as the Orochimaru there turned to mud, a Tsuchibunshin earth clone. "Kukukuku. Good effort Sasuke-kun," Orochimaru said from behind the Uchiha prodigy, clapping his hands. Sasuke got angry and threw two shuriken at the snake man, but he effortlessly dodged the attacks. Orochimaru then ducked underneath a Fuma shuriken as its razor-sharp edges had intended to cut off his head, but then the hubby Sannin noticed Sasuke was smiling. Sasuke then tugged on a thread of ninja wire in his hand. Then all of a sudden, a few meters of wire wrapped around Orochimaru and pinned him to a tree. "Nani, what? A sand shuriken no jutsu, triple shuriken jutsu," but when Orochimaru cried, Sasuke then flashed through hand signs and took a deep breath. "Kaden." Ruka no Jutsu, fire style. Dragon fire jutsu. Sasuke yelled, and then a powerful stream of fire blasted from his mouth and sped towards Orochimaru as it followed the path of the ninja wire. The intense flames crashed into Orochimaru, making the man scream with intense pain, his body becoming black from the burns in some areas. The fire then died down and Orochimaru lay still. Sasuke released the wires and then took a deep breath. That Ruka no Jutsu took a lot more out of him than he had anticipated. Kukukukuku, Gomen Nasai, Sasuke-kun, Orochimaru said as his head sprung back up, those piercing yellow eyes staring right into Sasuke's Sharingan. What the hell are you? Sasuke asked. I'm Orochimaru, former Konoha no Sannin, Orochimaru said, and then his neck extended and his fangs grew, intending to bite Sasuke, but then Sakura formed her earth sword and slammed it into Orochimaru's neck. Orochimaru coughed up some blood as his neck nearly shattered from the blow. Nice shot, girl, but you're in the way, Orochimaru said as he coughed up some blood. The hubby Sannin struck a fast blow to Sakura's neck, knocking her to the ground, and then the pink-haired Haruno watched in horror as Orochimaru bit Sasuke in the crook of his neck. Then Orochimaru withdrew his fangs, and then there on Sasuke's neck a cursed seal of heaven was formed. Kukuku, hear this, girl. That mark is a little present for Sasuke that will allow him to have tremendous power, and remember this, someday, Sasuke-kun will come to me, in the lust for power, Orochimaru hissed and then melted into a tree trunk. Sakura then left to find a place where she could help the boys recover, the kit trailing behind. Some random area of the forest. Sakura was with the boys and the kid watching over them. The cute little fox had fallen asleep on top of Naruto's chest, curled up in a ball. Sakura thought that it was so cute, but then remembered to help the blonde and raven-haired boys to get better. She soaked a rag with water she kept in her weapons pouch and placed it Sasuke's head. Then Sakura made a few traps to get rid of any enemy genin that would attack them. After that, a few hours later, the two males had still not woken up and Sakura began to grow even more worried for her two teammates. I mean, sure, she hated Naruto, but he helped them survive against Orochimaru. Then she heard a rustling in the bushes and Sakura turned and instantly drew her kunai. She then released the breath she was unconsciously holding when it was revealed to be a squirrel, but it was heading for her hidden trap. Sakura quickly threw her kunai at the woodland animal, which quickly ran away in fright. The bushes rustled again after a few minutes and then 3 Oto genin stepped out. Well, hello there, miss. We're looking for an Uchiha Sasuke. Have you seen him? The bandaged up one, Dosu asked. Yeah, we're here on a special assignment that includes him, a girl with long black hair, camouflage pants and a green tank top, Kin. We're here to kill him, the one with spiky black hair, wearing a white top with the kanji for death on it and black pants, Zaku. Sakura just stood in front of Sasuke, as if saying, no way, you can't have Sasuke-kun. The desire to protect her teammates shone in her emerald eyes. Well, looks like we'll have to this by force, Zaku said and then stepped forward. Sakura inwardly smirked, he was about to spring her trap. Mateo, Zaku, it's a trap, Dosu shouted, but it was too late. Zaku stepped on a trip wire and the whole ground gave way underneath the 3 Oto nins. Dosu and Kin jumped out of the way, but Zaku couldn't since he was closest to the trap. Oh, you pink-haired bitch, I'll get you, Zaku cried from in his hole. Zaku then channeled compressed air into the holes in his palms and then fired. The force of the air shot him upwards out of the hole. Zaku landed deftly on his feet and smiled. Uh-oh, plan failed, he teased. Sakura glared before throwing a kunai. Zaku effortlessly dodged the kunai, which had cut a trip wire which fired numerous kunai and shuriken at the Oto nin's defenseless back. Dosu then jumped in front of Zaku and revealed some sort of gauntlet on his left arm. The gauntlet then released a high-pitched sound wave that stopped the weapons and they clattered onto the ground below. Sakura then threw an exploding kunai at the 3, who jumped into the air. Sakura then cut a vine and a huge log was released, intending to smash them. Dosu then used his gauntlet which shattered the log into splinters. Good try Pinky, Dosu said. I could tell you had prepared for a various amounts of scenarios, but I'm afraid we have to get through you to get Sasuke. Like hell you will, Sakura growled and then formed some hand signs. Doden. Ken no Suchi, Sakura yelled and the sword of earth formed in her hands. Sakura gripped the blade and got ready to strike. The three were impressed at the powerful jutsu that Sakura performed. Sakura then rushed the three, going for Zaku first. Zaku then fired off a series Zenkahas, powerful streams of compressed air blasts. Sakura raised her sword and slashed downwards which destroyed the Zenkahas. Zaku grew angry at this and fired more. Sakura then formed more hand signs. Doden. Doryuheiki no Jutsu, Sakura said and then a wall of earth poured out of her mouth, deflecting the air blasts. The wall then broke and Sakura was grinning. She then continued her assault, her sword at her side closing in on Zaku. Lin then jumped in front of her teammate, but Sakura had slammed her sword into the girl's side, breaking a few ribs with a sickening crunch and she flew to the side. Zaku then jumped away as Sakura slammed her sword down creating a large dust cloud. Zaku landed, but didn't expect what was coming after. A series of earth spikes came from where the sword crashed into the ground and was headed for him. Zaku dodged to the side and then he fired Zenkahas. Sakura was too busy looking for him and was struck by the wind bullets. Her skin was cut and blood flowed freely, her hair was cut off at the shoulder and dirt was kicked up in her face. Zaku took advantage of this and began to punch and kick Sakura. Sakura formed a sword again and managed to hit Zaku in the shoulder. Zaku then kicked away the pinkett sending her rolling in the ground. Then as Zaku fixed his dislocated shoulder, he felt two sources of ominous chakra. Zaku and Dosu looked and saw the rising forms of Naruto and Sasuke surrounded by purple and red chakras respectively. Sakura, are you alright? Sasuke asked. Who did this to you, Haruno? Naruto asked. The fox kid by his side had, due to the Kyuubi's chakra had grown to the size of Naruto's waist and now had two tails, its green eyes staring intently at the two Oto nins. I did, Zaku said proudly. Dosu shook his head in disappointment. You don't tell a person who looks and is stronger than you hurt their teammate. Well then I guess we'll have to return the favor, Naruto said. Then he and Sasuke shunshined away. Zaku spun and released a Zenkaha. This formed a powerful dome of wind and sound waves that destroyed everything in a 10 featuring radius. Zaku halted his spinning and grinned when he didn't see Naruto and Sasuke. Ha! I blew them away, Zaku said triumphantly. Blew who away? Two evil voices said. Naruto looked at his fox. Sick him, Shizuka, Naruto told the fox. The kitsune then growled and bit Zaku's arm, blood flowing and staining the kit's fur red. Naruto then called off the kid and then they both grabbed Zaku's arms and then smashed them into their knees at the elbow, effectively breaking Zaku's arms. Zaku fainted from the pain and then Naruto, Sasuke and Shizuka turned towards Dosu. Dosu tired to offer them his earth scroll if they let he and his teammates go. Gomen Nasai, we already have one, so bad luck for you, Sasuke said and the Sharingan spun. Sasuke then shunshined behind Dosu and kicked him in the back. Naruto then kicked Dosu in the chin, sending the bandaged boy upwards. The two boys then appeared above the boy and delivered a double axe kick to Dosu's face and the bandaged boy slammed into the ground with terrific force. Dosu was knocked unconscious from the blows, ending up with 6 broken ribs, a broken nose and fractured skull and arms and legs. Physical recovery would take 5 weeks, psychological recovery would be 4 months. The ferocious chakras then left the two boys and the fox kid, turning them all back to normal, but Shizuka did not change, having his 2 tails and height, just didn't have the same bloodlust and killer intent. Sakura cried in happiness and hugged her 2 teammates, happy they were back to normal. A few hours of rest and the 4 of them headed for the tower, but not before hiding Shizuka's second tail in a genjutsu made by Sakura. Apparently, Sakura had taken a liking to the young kid and would have been happy to help Naruto and Shizuka stay together. Naruto and the others had finally made it to the tower by the 5th day, which was how long the exam was supposed to take. Naruto, Shizuka, Sasuke and Sakura panted in exhaustion as they tried to catch their breath after jumping through the trees, fighting off the gigantic insects, reptiles and ferocious carnivores for 3 days straight, not counting eating and bathroom breaks. I wonder, what will happen if we open these scrolls? Sakura asked. Naruto and Sasuke shrugged while Shizuka just whined in confusion. Let's find out then, Naruto said and then took the scrolls from Sasuke and laid them on the floor. Naruto opened the 2 scrolls and stared at the kanji, for human. Okay, now that's just less than helpful, Naruto said. Shizuka barked in agreement with her master. Then the 2 scrolls began to smoke. This is new, Naruto said and then he and his teammates backed away from the scrolls and then a large puff of smoke exploded out of the scrolls. Naruto sniffed the air and smiled. Hey guys, nice to see you, Yumino Iruka said. He looked at the 3 genin. Looks like you 3 went through a lot and, he then spied Shizuka. Naruto, you got a pet, Iruka said. Naruto chuckled sheepishly. Hi Iruka sensei, her name's Shizuka Uzumaki, Naruto said. Iruka nodded. Naruto needed some company at his lonely apartment. So, Iruka sensei, what are you doing in a summoning scroll? Sakura asked. Well Sakura, I am here to congratulate you. Some Chunin members are chosen to greet the teams who have made it to the tower. You have just passed the second part of the Chunin exams. I was lucky enough to greet you guys, Iruka explained. Also I'm here to explain about that plaque on the wall, right there, he added. The genin looked in the direction Iruka was looking and there on the wall was a white marble plaque which looked like it was weathered away by carbonization and was also missing some words here and there. Why are the words missing in some sentences? Sasuke asked. Iruka chuckled. That's what I'm supposed to explain. Anyways, this plaque is a piece of advice given to all to be Chunins made by Hokage-sama himself. The words missing are filled in with heaven and earth, representing the mind and body. If you require the element of heaven and raise your mind to greater heights, like Naruto used to be, you need to study hard and get serious about your work if he wants to become Hokage. And if you require the element of earth, the ability to fight off any challenge, like Sakura here, she needs to get stronger and build some muscle on that skinny body, and if you have these elements then you are good to go for a Chunin. Iruka explained. Team 7 nodded and then got up to go and meet in the room for the final part of the exams. Hold on guys, before you go I just want to give you some heads up. People have sometimes died in this exam and there have been ninja that have sometimes given up their career so as to not take the exam again. All I'm saying is be careful, and Naruto, I especially worry about you. You have a tendency to rush into things without thinking, Iruka said. Naruto's eyes turned slitted as he stared at his former sensei. Look Iruka sensei, this headband you gave me is proof of my maturity and knowledge of how to be a shinobi. Alright, I'm a shinobi of Konoha and you can't change that. I will make Chunin, Naruto said. Shizuka barked to back up her master's speech. Iruka smiled. Gomen Naruto, you're right, now go on out there and show them not to mess with Uzumaki Naruto, Iruka encouraged. Naruto showed his foxy grin and then Team 7 left to the main floor. Naruto, Sasuke and Sakura line up single file as they joined the other teams on the main floor. There in front of the teams that made it was a statue of a large pair of hands in the Tora seal. The Hokage, Enko, Ibiki and all the Jonin instructors of the teams that made it were there too. Naruto looked around. There were the rookie 9, Team Guy, but he didn't know why Kiba and Akamaru were glaring at him and Shizuka too fiercely for. There was also the Suna team, with Gaara, Kabuto's team, and then there was some other team that Naruto had never seen before. There was a brown-haired boy with gray-blue eyes, a white top which was covered with a black jacket and wore blue pants. The second member was a boy who had raven black hair, brown eyes and wore a black shirt with a pair of green shorts, and the final member was a girl with long light blonde hair around her lower back, azure eyes and wore a white shirt underneath a blue tank top and a dark purple shorts. Her left arm was wrapped in bandages and had black ninja sandals with a half-an-inch heel to add some feminine charm to it. Naruto's eyes widened at the beauty of this new girl, the three of them Naruto's age and also from Konoha. Who is she? He thought as he looked her up and down. So only 7 of the 42 teams made it, Sasuke thought. Yay, Naruto-kun's team made it, Hinata thought. So the Uchiha made it, Hyuga Neji of Team Guy thought. Ah, welcome every one of you 7 genin teams here to this year's Chunin exams. I will now explain the rules of this part of the exam. Sarutobi began, but then a poof of smoke signaled the coming of a new person. The smoke cleared to reveal a pale-looking man wearing a bandana with a Konoha metal plating, like on the Hittite and a standard Jonin outfit. Excuse me for the interruption, Hokage-sama. Demo allow me, Gecko Hayate, to explain this exam, Hayate said with a respectful bow. The Hokage puffed his pipe and nodded. Okay, first of all, does anyone wish to withdraw from this exam? He asked. Kabuto withdrew, but no one really cared since they didn't know him. Yukushi Kabuto, okay, he said. Kabuto left and then nobody else withdrew, so Hayate gave a few coughs and proceeded with explaining the rules. Okay, Anko, open the board, Hayate ordered. Open it, Anko said into her comlink. The wall then made a whirring sound as a tile was moved in an electronic board. Naruto whistled in astonishment. Looks like Konoha has an upgrade, he thought. Okay, the names of 2 random competitors will appear on the screen and these 2 will fight until one of them dies, one forfeits or if I declare the match to be over, Hayate said. The screen then began to blur through names at a high speed until there were the names of Uchiha Sasuke and Hyuga Neji. Uchiha Sasuke vs. Hyuga Neji. Will these 2 ninjas stay here on the floor while the rest of you go and watch the fights from the balcony overhead? Hayate said. Neji and Sasuke remained there on the floor while the others all walked up to the stands. Shizuka looked at Naruto, swishing her tail, well, tails since her second one was hidden. Naruto was wondering who that other team was. Naruto looked at Shizuka and smiled, patting her on the head. It's alright, Shizuka. I'm just thinking about some things, Naruto told the fox kit. The fox kit yipped and then licked Naruto's face. The 2 then went up to join Sakura. Kakashi went to go and join his team, but stopped by Sasuke. Sasuke, don't use the Sharingan, your curse mark reacts whenever you use it or chakra. If the mark takes over you will be effectively disqualified from the Chunin exams, Kakashi said. I see, well I'll try, Sasuke said. Kakashi nodded and then walked up to the balcony. Guy gave Neji a nice guy pose before going up to the balcony to join Tenten and Rock Lee. Are you 2 ready? Hayate asked. The 2 shinobi nodded. Hajime, Hayate shouted and then jumped away. Uchiha and Hyuga then rushed each other firing kicks and punches at each other as they fought. Neji then jumped away and formed some hand signs. Byakugan, he said, and then the veins around his eyes bulged and became visible. Sasuke took a step back when he saw this. Aw dude, that's disgusting. I mean, eyes just went like bloop, Sasuke said, gesturing the action of Neji's optic veins with his hands. Neji fumed before rushing the young Uchiha. Sasuke then dodged the Juken strikes that Neji fired, but then Sasuke grabbed Neji's wrist and twisted and it broke with an echoing crack. The audience winced. Neji growled and nursed his broken wrist. He then charged again and then fired of another flurry of Juken strikes, which Sasuke avoided. Sasuke then front flipped over Neji and landed behind him, but Neji quickly turned and hit a Juken to Sasuke's shoulder. Sasuke winced as he felt the chakra shut off at that point in his body. Neji smirked, but was then forced to go on the defensive as Sasuke shot a flurry of kicks and punches. Sasuke then replaced himself with a tile when Neji shot a strike to the stomach and then grabbed Neji's ankles from underground. Doden. Shinju Zanshu, Sasuke yelled as he pulled Neji downwards into the ground while jumping out of the hole. Neji was then stuck in the ground with only his head showing. In the stands, Naruto was watching the match and chuckled to himself at Neji's predicament. What's so funny? A female voice asked him. Naruto and Shizuka turned at the sound of the new voice. There next to him stood the new girl, her azure eyes looking at his cerulean ones. Naruto swallowed the drool that nearly escaped his mouth and coughed. Gomen, what was your question, miss? Naruto asked, not knowing her name. The girl giggled and then looked back at Naruto. Gomen, where are my manners? I'm Rime Sora, Twilight Sky, and you are? Sora asked. I'm Uzumaki Naruto, future Hokage, and this is my partner, Uzumaki Kitsune Shizuka, Naruto said. Sora looked at the blonde male. Naruto was blushing a bit when Sora began to stare. So Hokage, huh, you definitely want to prove something if you want to aim for that, Sora said. Anyways, my earlier question was why were you laughing when Sasuke pulled Neji down? Not that's it, not funny demo. Well, you see, for our Genin test, we had the bell test with Kakashi sensei and he had done the Shinju Zanshu on Sasuke, Naruto said as he reminisced about the past. Sora chuckled a bit before looking back at the match. So who are your teammates? Naruto asked the azure-eyed beauty. Sora looked back at Naruto and then pointed right next to her. Matsumoto Shinji and Fuma Arashi, she said. Naruto looked and saw the two males admiring Sasuke's battle and then taking some glances at Sora, like they were watching over her. Back with Sasuke and Neji, Neji was struggling to get out of the ground. Neji was starting to get annoyed before he got an idea. Hake Sho. Kaden 8 trigrams. Rotation, Neji said, and then a chakra dome surrounded the submerged Hyuga. Neji then began to spin at high speeds, kicking up tile and rock. When Neji was done releasing the ground's hold on him, he jumped out. Sasuke then prepared to fiot, but then felt immobilized as soon as Neji hit the ground. Neji was in a peculiar stance, his left arm was parallel to his left. Hake Rokujuyan Sho, 8 trigrams 64 palms, Neji said, and then rushed forward, hitting 2 of Sasuke's tenketsu. 2 Hake, Neji said, and then followed up with 4 strikes, then 8 strikes, 16, 32, and then finally the grand finale as Neji hit Sasuke with a rapid series of blows, shutting off all 64 of Sasuke's tenketsu. 64 Hake, Neji shouted as he fired the final blow to Sasuke's stomach. Neji then stood back up straight as he saw Sasuke roll on the floor. The Hyuga cannot be defeated by mere Uchiha, Neji said, his Byakugan staring at Sasuke's immobile form. Naruto was laughing in the stands. Come on Sasuke, get out of the ground, Naruto said. Sora was looking at her new friend and gasped when she saw a form burst out of the tile floor. Sasuke was behind Neji, surrounded by a storm of fire and lightning chakra. What is that? Neji asked as he was astounded by the amount of chakra put into this technique the Uchiha prodigy would use. It's called Ryu no Arashi, Strom of the Dragon, a powerful ending blow in the taijutsu style I've been learning, but I added my own twist to it, and the result of that twist is what you see, Sasuke said. Neji was shocked and then Sasuke blurred out of existence. Neji was looking around, but he couldn't find Sasuke even with his Byakugan. Neji was then hit with a strong uppercut. Electricity shocked his body as he flew upwards, about 20 feet. Up. Sasuke then jumped up and delivered a flaming kick to Neji's stomach, burning the Hyuga and knocking the wind out of him. Neji nearly crashed into the wall, which would have seemed like a slap on the wrist compared to the electrocuted fist and foot Sasuke planted into Neji's back. Neji spun as he was sent across the room. Sasuke then blurred underneath the damaged Hyuga, performing the Kujibayo, Shadow of the Dancing Leaf. The young Uchiha then smiled as he poked Neji in the back, but then he coughed blood. The curse mark began to spread across his body like a wildfire, the dark chakra surrounding him. Sasuke was hissing in pain as the mark spread. No, not now, I will not let this thing consume me. He mentally shouted. Anko, Kakashi and everyone who knew about the mark were surprised when Sasuke moved it back. He countered the mark with sheer willpower, Anko thought, surprised. The curse mark then went back into its original mark state. Ikuzo, he and then fired a quick fire-infused kick to Neji's ribs, hearing a satisfying crack. Then Sasuke spun his body. Electricity then coursed through his right fist and then using the centripetal force of his spin slammed the fist into Neji's face, electrocuting him. Then they were only 5 feet above the ground. Sasuke then readied his final blow, concentrating all the fire and lightning chakra into his right heel. Sasuke then slammed his heel into Neji's stomach. The burns and electrocution caused him to scream in immense pain before fainting, his shirt having a little ember on it and his body having little sparks flying off. Hayate checked to see if the Hyuga was alive, which he was, and then medic Nins came to take him to the hospital room. Kakashi then jumped to the floor and told something to Sasuke. Sasuke brooded before nodding and the 2 Sharingan users left the room. Sugoi, that was a really unexpected move Sasuke pulled, Sora said. Naruto looked at her quizzically. You know, I've now noticed that you don't call Sasuke, Sasuke-kun, like all the other girls our age in Konoha, Naruto said. Yeah, the other girls thought I was weird because of it, but I mean I saw Sasuke as an emo, with a ducks for a head, Sora said. Naruto laughed. At least there's one girl who knows that, Naruto said, but I can still top that move Sasuke used. Now it was Sora's turn to do the quizzical look. Oh really, Mr. Fox, well then you sound confident, what is it? She asked, stepping a bit closer into Naruto's personal bubble, her eyes having a seductive look in them. Naruto blushed, a shade of pink, as Sora came closer. He then showed her his foxy grin. Well then Ms. Rime, you'll find out when Shizuka and I go to the floor. Hinata, who was on the opposite balcony on the other side of the room, was glaring at Sora. Why that little, what does she think she's doing, making advances towards my Naruto-kun? If I have to fight her I'll beat her to a pulp and then Naruto will fall in love with me, Hinata thought. Kiba and Shino slowly backed away from the female, Hyuga heiress, when a wicked grin spread across her face. What do you think she's thinking? Kiba whispered to Shino. Shino looked at the grin on Hinata's face. I don't know, but it must have to do with that new girl Naruto's talking to, Shino whispered back. Kiba was shocked. Nani? The Dobi got a girl has never even talked to me, besides Hinata, Kiba said. Akamaru barked something, making Kiba begin to rant, rather loudly as he and Pup argued over Kiba's love life. And he wonders why, Shino thought as he watched the two go at it. Time skip. Tenten vs. Tamari. Shosha, Tamari. Nara Shikamaru vs. Kin. Shosha, Nara Shikamaru. Aburame Shino vs. Abumi Zaku. Shosha, Aburame Shino. Akamaiki Choji vs. Dosu. Draw. End time skip. The electronic board flashed through names and then settled on the two foes as Kakashi had just returned to the balcony. Kakashi assured to Naruto and Sakura that Sasuke was fine and just needed rest. Inuzuka Kiba vs. Uzumaki Naruto. Will these two competitors please come down to the floor? Hayate said. Well, guess you'll get to see my new move sooner than you thought, Sora-chan, Naruto said. Sora looked at the whiskered blonde. Sora-chan? She asked, with a slight blush. Naruto nodded and shrugged. Why not? Naruto asked. Sora playfully shoved him. Well then, looks like the kitsune faces his rival, the Inu. Well, go get those two. Good luck, Sora said. Naruto smiled. With that kind of encouragement I don't need luck, I have skills and a pretty girl to cheer me on. What could stop me? Come on Shizuka, let's hand Kibas to him, Naruto said, and then he and his kitsune jumped down to the floor. Sora was shocked, her eyes were wide and she was slack-jawed. He called me pretty, she thought, a bright pink going to her cheeks. She then smiled. Well then let's see what the kitsune can do. Naruto, secretly a kitsune Hanyu, and his secretly two-tailed kitsune, the second tail hidden by a genjutsu, glared at Kiba and Akamaru, who grinned. We got lucky Akamaru, we got this one down for sure, Kiba said to his pet. Akamaru barked in agreement. Naruto chuckled. You baka inu. Don't underestimate the cunning of a kitsune, Naruto said. Kiba glared and bared his teeth. Are you two ready? Hayate asked. The two nodded. Hajime, Hayate yelled and jumped away. Kiba formed some hand signs and then his chakra system flooded, his nails became claws and teeth became fangs. Shizuka handle the puppy. I'll beat up Kiba, he said. The two canines then sized each other up before jumping at each other. Claws and teeth were aimed at body parts as fur and blood flew. Ninpu. Shikyaku no Jutsu, ninja art. All fours jutsu, Kiba growled. Naruto got into the Uzukan stance as Kiba sped towards him. Naruto twisted his body as Kiba tried to punch his stomach. Naruto then spun and delivered a backhand to Kiba's face. Naruto twisted his body again and punched Kiba with his fist. Naruto then went down low while spinning and then elbowing Kiba in the stomach and then finally twisted and jumped, delivering a powerful spin kick to Kiba's chest. The young Inuzuka flew across the arena floor before skidding on the ground and coming to a stop. Everyone in the stands was shocked at Naruto's display of skill and power. Kiba looked like he was being hit inside a human whirlpool. Wow! They all thought. Kiba growled as he got up. That's it, Suga tunneling Fang. Kiba's body then spun at high speeds, turning him into a gray drill. Naruto got into the Kitsunekin stance this time and then he revealed his claws and then charged them with chakra, the nails surrounded by cutting wind chakra. Naruto then slashed downwards and blue streaks of chakra and wind flew at Kiba's drill-like form. The two attacks battled for dominance and an explosion was the result. The smoke from the explosion quickly went away and there stood a cut-up and bleeding Kiba. My newest technique, created by myself, it is called Ninpu, Sum no Jujin ninja art, Claw of the Beast, Naruto stated. Kiba growled and then his eyes widened when he saw Shizuka walk up to Naruto. Akamaru was held at the neck by the kitsune's jaws. Naruto grinned and patted Shizuka on the head. Good job Shizuka, Naruto said with a smile. Shizuka threw Akamaru towards Kiba and showed a vulpine grin, tails wagging happily at the praise. Kiba growled as he picked up the wounded pup. Naruto, you'll pay, Kiba said. He then took out a chakra and health replenishing pill and fed it to Akamaru. Akamaru in a near instant, got back up, and then Kiba gave the pup another pill. The dog's fur turned red and then growled before letting out not a bark, but a roar. That's just not normal, Naruto said. Kiba went back onto all fours and Akamaru jumped onto the boy's back. Ninpu. Jujin Bunshin ninja art. Man-beast clone, Kiba said and then in a poof of smoke there were two Kibas instead of one. I see, turning Akamaru into a human form does have some advantage, but my senses can tell them apart, Naruto said. The two Kibas then ran at Naruto, going in a zigzag motion in hopes to confuse the blonde Jinchuriki. One of the Kibas then took out a smoke bomb and threw it in front of Naruto, clouding him and Shizuka in the purple cloud. Kuso, I can't see a thing, Sora thought as she squinted trying to see inside the smoke. Kiba and Akamaru then spun and turned into twin gray drills. Gatsuga! They cried and then dove into the smoke. Naruto was being hit from all sides, his new black jacket with a picture of the Uzumaki spiral on the back was being torn. The smoke cleared as the Kibas jumped away, grinning with toothy smiles. There stood Naruto, his jacket and pants torn and blood dripping down the side of his face and from his arm. Naruto looked at the Kibas and showed to them deep blue slitted eyes full of anger. Shizuka was a bit knocked up and her fur was red with some cuts from the wind the Gatsuga made. Oh Kiba, that's it, you will fall here today, the kitsune shall finally triumph over the Inu, he said, forming hand signs. Naruto then clapped his hands together. Ninpu. Genjutsu no Kitsune no Baikai, ninja art, Fox Tails Genjutsu release. He yelled. Sakura gasped, that was the jutsu to reveal Shizuka's other tail. Naruto, you baka, why did you do that? She yelled. The others looked at her with confusion, it was just a jutsu. A large blast of chakra flew out of Shizuka as she began to glow with red yukai, then a whirlwind surrounded the fox and 4 tendrils of yukai shot upwards to the ceiling kicking up dust and tiles. The people covered their eyes to prevent the dust to get into their eyes. The chakra died down and then the smoke cleared. Everyone gasped at what they saw. Shizuka had her black fur, but there were streaks of white across her back, her eyes a deeper color of green, and the most surprising part, 4 black white-tipped tails swished in the stadium air. Naruto smiled. His eyes closed and then opened them, revealing the orange-red color of Kyuubi's irises. You see, Kiba, we were holding back. Like I said, don't underestimate the cunning of we kitsune, Naruto said. Everyone in the stands were gaping at Shizuka and then at Naruto's eyes. What power! They seem stronger than before, Ino thought. Naruto-kun, that is so cool, Hinata thought. Well, you had to show them the truth sooner or later, Sakura thought. Oh Naruto, you surely grew, didn't you? To think you have a pet 4-tailed kitsune, Sarutobi Hiruzen thought. I see, so that's your technique, and well, you're right, it really does top Sasuke's, Sora thought with a smile. Arashi and Shinji were now taking some interest into the fight. They got up from their resting spot on the balcony's floor and then went up next to Sora. So you two finally decided to take a look, Sora said. Hey, the Uchiha was alright, but this Uzumaki guy is cool. I mean, come on, a pet 4-tailed kitsune, Shinji said in a baritone voice. Yeah, what he said, Arashi said, his voice a tenor tone. Naruto looked down at his pet and smiled. So you've become a 4-tails, Shizuka? Naruto asked. Shizuka barked in reply and gave a grin. Well, let's beat these 2 dogs and show them what a fox can do. The 2 then rushed the Inuzuka. Naruto and Shizuka quickly appeared behind one Kiba with surprising speed. Naruto then punched the Kiba in its head and then Shizuka slapped in hard in the back with iron-hard tails. The Kiba fell to the floor, revealing it to be Akamaru. Kiba growled in anger and then charged Naruto and his pet in blind rage. Naruto then ducked under Kiba's swipe and then kicked him upwards with the kick to the chin, the opening kick for the primary lotus and Shishirendan. Kiba flew up as Shizuka then had her tails surrounded by blue fire. Shizuka then barked something that, if you understood kitsune, meant, Kitsunehi by foxfire tails. The tails then slammed into Kiba's stomach. Kiba flew across the air and then Naruto appeared behind the moving Kiba and fired a wind-covered kick. Then Naruto quickly shunshined in front of him and then punched Kiba in the face with a fist of chakra. Shizuka and Naruto then appeared on the floor below Kiba, who was falling down towards the tile floor. The 2, Master and Pet, jumped up and Naruto fired a foxfire-covered fist, while Shizuka did a few flips on the way up and struck with her tails covered in the sapphire flames. Kiba was struck in the back. Burns covered his jacket as flew up. Naruto and Shizuka then quickly move above Kiba. The sapphire foxfire made a streak of fire marking the path of boy and fox. The 2 were above Kiba and were quickly flipping downwards towards Kiba's rising form. The 2 halted their spinning and then Shizuka used her fire-covered tails and Naruto, his flame-covered axe kick crashed hard into Kiba's stomach. Kitsune High Rendan, Foxfire Barrage, Naruto yelled, Shizuka barked. Kiba screamed in pain from the burns and power in the attacks as he flew downwards, and then a huge crater was made with Kiba's impact with the ground. Kiba was alive as decreed by Hayate and then turned to the landing Shizuka and Naruto. Shizuka barked in happiness at the victory. Naruto grinned and then ruffled Shizuka's head. He and the kitsune then walked back up the stairs to the balcony, to find the people clapping for him. Sora ran up to him and hugged him. Naruto was taken back by the show of affection and then grinned. Sora released the hug. That was so cool, Naruto-kun. You were all flashing from place to place, and that Kitsune High Rendan that really topped Sasuke's, Sora said. Naruto scratched the back of his head in embarrassment. I guess I overdid it a bit, but thanks for the praise, Sora-chan, Naruto said. Then Shinji and Arashi walked up. Hey Shinji, Arashi, what did you think? Naruto asked Sora's teammates. The 2 glared at the Jinchuriki, making Naruto feel nervous. Then their expressions changed from serious to happiness. Sugoi, Naruto-san, I can see why Sora has taken such a quick liking to you. She took at least a week to get used to us, Arashi said. Sora blushed a bit before punching Arashi in the arm. Shinji chuckled. Like what Arashi said, I think you did an awesome job, he said, shaking Naruto's hand. Shizuka barked before jumping up to get attention. The four genin chuckled. You did a good job to Shizuka-san, Shinji said. Shizuka puffed out her chest in pride. They then heard the sound of the electronic board flashing through names with a beeping sound. The names then slowed down, going slower and slower. Will Rime Sora and Hyuga Hinata please come down to the floor, Hayate said. Naruto then gave Sora a hug. Naruto and Sora blushed a bit. Good luck, Sora-chan, he said. Arigato, Naruto-kun, she said, and then jumped down onto the floor. Hinata and Sora faced off against each other. Hinata activated her Byakugan and got into the Juken stance. I will win Naruto-kun's heart through defeating this girl, Hinata mentally growled. Sora got into a basic fighting stance and prepared to face Hinata. Hajime, Hayate yelled. Hinata quickly ran at Sora and cocked back a chakra palm strike to Sora's stomach. Sora formed hand signs and took a deep breath. Kaden. Gukakyu no Jutsu, she yelled, and a large fireball flew out towards Hinata. Hinata jumped over it and then Sora jumped up and the two kunoichi met in a flurry of punches and kicks. Sora was careful not to get hit by Hinata's Juken strikes. Hinata then grinned when she saw an opening and struck Sora in the arm, making it go limp. Sora gritted her teeth before charging it with chakra and hitting Hinata in the face with it. Hinata flew back into the wall and slowly got up. Blood fell from her mouth and glared at Sora, the Byakugan blazing. Sora then quickly channeled a lot of chakra into the tenketsu and the point in her arm was back to normal. What did you do? It's not possible to stop the Juken, Hinata cried. Sora chuckled. So the Hyuga say, but just in case I've had to fight one of you, I came up with my own way to counter the Juken, forcing a large amount of chakra to the sealed point and then force in open, Sora explained. Sora then formed hand signs. Fuden. Furyuendon no Jutsu, Sora yelled and the wind dragon flew from her mouth and barreled towards Hinata. Hinata used her Byakugan and spotted the weakness in the dragon and then she spun and struck the dragon's yellow eye, her hand getting cut in the process, but the wind dragon fell with a roar. Hinata nursed her injured hand and glared, releasing killer intent at Sora. Sora grinned and then formed more hand signs. Hinata ran at Sora, full speed in an attempt to stop the blonde, but it was too late. Kaden. Arashi Hai no Jutsu, ninja art. Firestorm Jutsu, Sora cried and then a swirl of red and orange flames swirled around her feet before spinning into a tornado and sped towards Hinata. Sora then formed some more hand signs. Fuden. Taifuamadri no Jutsu, wind style. Hurricane Jutsu, she said, and then a huge blast of wind went towards the tornado of fire and made it even more than it was before. Hinata's hair whipped back from the strong winds. Fear evident in her eyes as she saw the awesome chakra and power this attack possessed. Dear Kami, how will I get out of this? Hinata thought. Hinata tried to run from it, but wherever she went the tornado followed. Little embers were flying off, some nearly hitting Hinata in the face. Sora clasped her hands together and thought it was time to finish this. She made the tornado reform into something else. Front and back appendages extended from the tornado. 9 whip-like tails followed and then the head of a kitsune emerged and it let out a howl. This is my newest jutsu, I came up with it just now, I call it Kyubi no Hai, the blonde girl said. She then moved her arms and the fox followed her arm movements. This is my Kekai Genkei, the ability to bend fire to my will, she said, and then she shot her arm forward. The Kyubi of fire let out a menacing howl and before Hinata could blink, the fox was already in front of her. Its glowing blue eyes of fire stared into her soul. Give up, Hyuga, you can't win, she said. Hinata nodded and fell to her knees. I surrender, she said. Shosha. Rime Sora, Hayate said. Naruto whooped with joy and clapped for blonde female. Sora showed the Jinchuriki a grin and walked up the stairs to see her Naruto-kun. My Naruto-kun, where is all this stuff coming from? Stop thinking, you stupid brain, Sora thought. Time skip. Sakura vs. Ino draw. Gaara vs. Lee Shosha. Gaara. Arashi vs. Shinji Shosha. Arashi. End time skip. The winners of each round then lined up as they stood before the Hokage. Well, good job Eugenin, Konoha and others. Now then, in 1 month the finals for this year's Chunin exams will take place in the Konoha Arena at 10 a.m. You will be able to use this time to train for new strategies and come up with new techniques in order to surprise your opponents. You must also have to put on a good show for the daimyos of K's. Mizu and Hai will come to see this. Now then, you will draw numbers from the box Hayate has in his hand and then you will face that opponent, such as number 1 will fight number 2 and so on, Sarutobi explained. Hayate brought out a little wooden box with pieces of paper in it. The genin present all drew their numbers. Arashi 1, Shino 2, Shikamaru 3, Tamari 4, Sora 5, Gaara 7, Naruto 8. Okay, that leaves Uchiha Sasuke with number 6, so Hayate showed them the tournament sheet, Sarutobi said. Hi. Hayate then drew a piece of paper and wrote down a few things and then showed it to the genin to show the matchups for the finals. Fuma Arashi vs. Aburame Shino. Nara Shikamaru vs. Subaku no Tamari. Rime Sora vs. Uchiha Sasuke. Subaku no Gaara vs. Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto turned and saw Gaara looking at him. Naruto glared at the Aikibi Jinchuriki with now glowing crimson eyes. Gaara's eyes flashed to a golden color, like sand as he glared back at the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. The genin then all left with their teams to finally prepare for the matches. 1 month and the battles of the champions will begin. Naruto took one last look at Sora and smiled before leaving with Sakura and Kakashi.